Coming. As we typically do, we're going to get right into it because I know a lot of people have other agendas after the meeting. Just a point of note, the memo and part of the discussion is on the flip side of your agenda. Okay? Kerry was phenomenal saving paper. Great. Thank you. So the agendas were on the table, and there have both sides written on it. First thing we're going to do, as we do on a semi-regular basis, is elect the chair, co-chair, and secretary. And I will note before we take nominations, our secretary has been for the last couple of years Councilman Tom Lennox, and he has chosen not to run and broke all our hearts, and so he will be leaving his post as secretary at the end of the year, right, Tom?
December.
December. Okay. So we will need a nomination of a new secretary. And these three positions are for lack of a better term, the executive committee. We don't normally meet on a regular basis, but we do talk about what the upcoming agendas are. So the first thing I'd like to do is take nominations for chair of the board.
I'd like to nominate Harry Williams and Lisa Soka as co-chairs.
Excellent.
Second nomination.
Thanks.
Excellent choice.
A stunning development this morning already. Do we have any other nominations? Okay, so
Nominations be closed.
yeah, nominations are closed. We have Mayor Williams and Mayor Soka as co-chairs of Soloka. For those of you who don't know if you're voting, the membership is on the back. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay. Mayor Soka, here we go again.
Here you go.
Okay. Now I'd like a nomination for secretary. Now, if you notice, we have Hardyville, we have Bluffton, and Tom serving from Hilton Head. So we recommend that the nomination come from somewhere other than Hardyville and Bluffton, so we have as extensive a representation as possible. Do we have any nominations?
Who's absent? You're supposed to nominate who's absent. That way they can say no.
Who is interested?
Who's interested? So it's Ridgeland or Jasper County or Beaufort County, right?
It could be,
Have to be an
it could be Jasper County, Beaufort County, it could be Yemassee, Hilton Head. If necessary, it could be Bluffton or Hardyville, but.
How about Matt? I nominate Matt. He shows up.
He shows up. Doesn't take much, Matt. You got the get the gig.
I'll second that nomination.
There you go.
Very well.
If elected, you will serve, right? I will. Okay. Any other nominations? Then I'll call for a vote. All in favor of Matt Garnes from Yemassee to be the secretary? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Youth.
Okay.
You're going to be here next year, so get ready.
I've heard of shotgun weddings, but this seems like shotgun elections. Well, thank you, Matt, for being part of Soloka. Next, we have really not done this since we first started in 2017, and that's review the mission statement and goals as written in 2017. And also, there has been some recommendations that we expand Soloco beyond the southern borders. So this is going to be a general conversation, open to anybody, including those from the public. We'd like to hear everybody's thoughts, if anybody has any thoughts. Number one on the mission, on the vision and the mission statement, and then we'll talk about the membership. And all that's on the back of, the one incorrect thing, I didn't update it, the membership. We did a couple of years ago vote Embassy into Soloco, so that's missing from here. Okay. Any comments on the vision? It is the vision of the Soloco Board to enhance the building of relationships among elected officials from differing communities, municipalities, utilities, and centers of higher education, to enhance the communication among the members internal as well as to subdivisions external, and most importantly, to the communities in which we serve. Our vision is a vibrant low country, a united low country, and a sustainable low country. Any thoughts from anyone?
It's a wordsmithing, but, you know, we do have two counties that sit here, and when we talk about municipalities, should we not, in that first sentence, add counties, since we have such a long vision statement? We can make it a little longer.
I think that's an excellent suggestion.
Or just change municipalities to local governments.
That's a good idea. I'm open to that, too.
And Harry, I'd scratch, in the first sentence, I'd scratch the building of, and just say, to enhance relationships among elected officials.
Yeah, we built it, haven't we, over 5 years?
Yeah.
To enhance.
Enhance relationships among elected officials from differing communities.
Local governments, utilities, and centers for higher education. Okay.
Any other comments from anyone? Okay, so there are two changes that are recommended. The first sentence will say to enhance relationships among elected officials, et cetera, and changing in line 2, municipalities to local governments. Do I have a motion to accept those two changes?
I make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any comments, questions?
Would you repeat that again? Just
Line 1, it'll be the vision to enhance relationships among elected officials. So we're taking out the building of.
Okay.
And line 2, we're going to change the word municipalities to local governments. Any other comments or questions? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? Okay, so those two changes are made to the vision. The mission statement, to create a regional think tank that will identify the problems and opportunities that face the entire southern low country, as defined by the members and regardless of municipal or county boundaries. To discuss the zoning, housing, employment, quality of life, and social issues, and propose action plans to the appropriate legislative bodies. Now, there's a lot of specific things, zoning, housing, employment, quality of life. Are there things that we should add in there or subtract? Or any other comments on the mission statement? Yes, Joe?
I think we should take out to create a regional think tank, because that says we haven't completed that mission. I think we've already done that. I think we start out with the identification of the problems and opportunities. That's what we're continuing to do, is to identify problems and opportunities that face the entire county.
So the first line would read, we would take out, create a regional think tank that will, and just say to identify.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good suggestion.
And in the last sentence, is that pigeonhole us? I mean, is there a, and I look at the town managers, I look at Eric, are we staying within those things, or should we have more of a broader, as part of our, because we do have a regional plan, we have a southern regional plan, that's why we started this. Should we be a little more broad? What are y'all's thoughts?
You can always add other items, or other items as signed on the board, or something, other issues as they arise.
Or we could say, to broaden it to Mayor Salka's point, to discuss any issue. Any issue, we could further describe it, any issue that affects the quality of life or something to that extent, rather than specifically put items down there that would limit us. Any thoughts on that?
I think promoting economic well-being and quality of life catches everything.
Note, say that again?
Economic well-being and quality of life should catch everything a local government does.
That's a good suggestion. So you're suggesting that it would read, to discuss the economic well-being and quality of life.
To discuss
The
issues related to economic well-being and quality of life.
That's why he's the secretary.
You can still be you can still be on here as honorary. Talk about that.
All right, Tom, I can't
I wrote
write
it,
as fast as you.
To discuss the issues relating to economic well-being and quality of life
In the Lowcountry.
in the Lowcountry, and propose action plans to appropriate legislative bodies? Keep the
That's
last
great.
part.
Sure.
Okay, so.
Here we go.
So the first line is to identify the problems, and then in the next to the last line, it would be
to discuss
issues relating
to
to economic well-being and quality of life in the Lowcountry.
and propose action plans.
And then keep that last part, and propose action plans to the appropriate legislative bodies. Any other comments or suggestions? Public is welcome to join in.
Need
Okay.
some coffee. Come on, guys. Just some sit-ups.
Okay. Seeing no further suggestions, I'm not going to read it again. Do I have a motion to approve these changes?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any comments or questions by anyone? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay, anybody opposed? Okay. Next, we have membership, and this is where we need some discussion. The membership are the mayors of each municipality, and I have to add Yemassee in that, the county chairs, and one council member from both counties, and one council member from each municipality. Each member should designate an alternate so that we have attendance from every jurisdiction at each meeting, recognizing that there are times when everybody can't be there. And then the county and city administrators.
I believe the alternate designation is redundant because we have representation. We have the administrator, we have a council member, and we have a mayor or county administrator. So we got representation twice already.
It's a good point.
I was actually going to ask who our alternate was for the town. I don't think we have one, so do we have?
There
a
were
list of-
too many.
Okay. My worry, I agree, but when we look around the table today, our mayors are pretty well covered. I think Matt, we all think Matt is the mayor of the MSC, but we won't tell his mayor that. He's everywhere. But we don't, we need our people like we don't have Hilton Head. And you're going, I mean, I hope you beg to be, maybe they'll let you be the representative and you can be a liaison.
We've got 4 out of 7 seats
I know.
turning over, so let's
Don't change
let
the
the
elected official
election
part.
play out and see who gets elected.
Is this on the radar? And I guess the new mayor, whoever it is, knows this is something
It's
they
big
need.
time on the radar. When you think of the 3 things that this group has facilitated, stormwater, business license legislation, and now the Housing Trust Fund, it's more conspicuous now than it's ever been.
Okay. But it'd just be nice, and I will relay to whoever's elected that, I mean, we're busy too, and I think the mayors should be here.
I agree.
So, and then Beaufort County, usually it's just you, Joe. I mean, who's the other, and I know Eric, so as long as we have one.
Yeah, we'll have a change because Paul was the designee, he's leaving council, so we're going to have 8 of us elected out of the 11
Wow.
come November. So that's a huge change,
Yeah,
and so we'll let that play out.
okay, good. What were you asking? I was just, what are your
This is,
thoughts on
this
grants?
again is membership. I think it's fine. We don't have too many alternates designated, but in the case of Hardyville, we did designate an alternate, and Councilman Spizo died, and Mrs. Castle stepped up. She was our alternate, and she stepped up. So there's, it's good to have, I think, each segment of the group participate as often as possible. So if a council person can't make it, then an alternate could be the person that sits at the table and represents the voice. So I don't think it's really come into play that often, but so it's, I think it should be left to each jurisdiction to decide whether or not they need it.
So
But
then let's
we're-
change the word from will to may.
Okay,
What'd you say, Jeff?
that's
Change the word from will to may.
each
May.
member, that's an excellent suggestion. That way, you leave it up to the jurisdiction if they want to have somebody on call.
And I do think the administrators, we all work in a council manager form of government in some format, even counties. Our managers need to be here. And again, you have 4. Hilton Head could have 1 come. Josh was coming pretty regularly. They're the ones that go back to staff and work on it. We don't go back to staff and tell them what went on, and Stephen takes that for us. So if we can really urge our managers to come, I think that'd be helpful. And it gets, again, it goes back to, enhancing relationships. The managers see each other and we keep it at 1 hour. So it's not that long of a drawn-out day, and I really do think we talk about a lot of good things. And you're a manager, so maybe you could have some insight into that, or maybe you could take that on and rally the troops. So.
And most, not all, but most have deputy city managers. Hardyville, Bluffton, Hilton Head. Matt's a one-man show over there, but, even, and the counties, just so you have a voice at the table each time. I think, Mayor Salka, I think that's an excellent point, that at least somebody be here. And I want to follow up on what Mayor Salka said, because I think she really touched on one of the most important accomplishments we've had in 5 years. at least once a month, we're together talking. And so if a group's not represented, they're missing that opportunity to do line one, and that's to build those relationships. And so, Mayor Salka, thank you. I think that's an excellent thought. We can jump in at any time, but let's move the discussion to the next topic. It has been suggested that SoLoco expand. We did a couple of years ago. The embassy asked to come in, and they were active in their participation. So the group said, "Yeah, great, let's come on in." There were some synergies between the embassy and Jasper County, and therefore SoLoco. So I'm going to open. This is a general discussion, and again, the board, the public is more than welcome to chime in. Do we, as SoLoco, want to expand beyond the Broad River?
So for discussion, I'll start it, maybe others can chime in. And I think I'm the only one maybe sitting here that was not here and was voted chair of the Southern Regional Board when we met at the library. Rob was here. Rob's not here today. Rob, the planning director, and I were I think the two that have the memory. This was set up by Weston Newton decades ago now, that our area was growing. It was very proactive, actually, and the northern plan evolved in the southern plan. And the river, I always say the Broad River is broad because it was a bridge that didn't connect, it really separated. And I've worked really hard with relationships with all of the municipalities to let that bridge be smaller, not longer. But there are two plans in place. I think recently we've gone over some regional topics because we actually are a group that are listening and educating and getting things done. I do feel that way. And it's become a popular group. So I'm interested in what everyone else thinks. I think the last several months we've included all of our municipalities. And I think no matter if they're on a voting board or not, everyone has a right to come to these meetings and, what is the process to see if it's marriage, that could work out. But Weston explained it to me pretty well, just for history, nothing to do with today. The northern plan was like a yin and yang. You knew when you were in Port Royal or you were in Hardy or Beaufort, and they were so connected and by lines and everything. And really had an effort to stay a little more rural in the outlying areas. Bluffton, Southern, my gosh, Eric, you probably have nightmares. Southern, you don't know when you're in Bluffton and on Hilton Head. You don't know when you're on Hilton Head and out of Hilton Head. We're such a mess. And we always, all of us on this side, including Hardyville, felt like that was going to be more of an urban area. So such different visions. So that's what I'd like to see. I'd like to participate more in the northern as a visitor to see what they talk about. I've never been to a northern regional plan meeting. So that's more history. And I leave it just for everyone to know why we're called the Southern LOWCOUNTRY Regional Board. Anyway, more historical facts on it. You might jump in.
To follow up, perhaps the northern plan, how often do you meet? Please, come on, why don't you come sit?
You have to speak in the microphone so everyone can hear you.
And since we are discussing it, can we have a representative
Dan.
from Port Royal? Darrell?
Oh, here's Darrell.
Well, I appreciate the agenda item, and because I think I'm sort of the one that broached the subject several months ago. And so first, I just want to say I'm sincerely grateful that you're even considering the option. And so I'd like to, there's sort of 3 points on why I would ask that you encourage, you support the inclusion of the city of Beaufort and the town of Port Royal into SoLoCo. First, everybody wants to be on a winning team. And as a guy who's been sort of paying attention since you've been founded the last 5 years, it's been really refreshing to see the momentum out of this group, to see the camaraderie, and a lot of that's to the mayor's leadership. As we grow, these regional issues don't respect or care about our jurisdictional lines, whether it's stormwater or housing or economic opportunity for our citizens. And so, Mayor, I think to your point earlier about the opportunity for monthly for everybody to get in a room together and to have an opportunity to discuss these issues, currently there is no mechanism for all of us in the region, all of the municipalities, Jasper and Beaufort County, to get in a room to have these conversations. And I think they're critically important as we all grow and try to figure out how we get along, how we take care of our people. And you're right, Northern Beaufort County, through our Northern Regional Plan, we said 60% of our land we wanted to keep rural and then try to fatten up and thicken up the urban centers. But I'd argue, and John O'Toole says this all the time, that Beaufort County and Jasper, it's a stained glass window. And each of our communities is very different, right? Hilton Head is very different, where my wife grew up, than St. Helena Island, or the city of Beaufort, or the town of Bluffton. But I think that's one of the things that probably makes us the most special, is that we are a really diverse place, right, with different sort of philosophies and cultures. But that mechanism to get us around the table, I just think is really important. And from the city standpoint, we have recently adopted the stormwater standards, which came out of this group. We participated in the Affordable Housing Trust and just recently passed that. So we've been very supportive of the regional initiatives that have come out of here. But we think it's important for us to also have a seat at the table. And I thought, okay, Northern's fine, Southern's fine, until I saw that Yamasee was included. And Yamasee is even north of the city of Beaufort, much farther north of the Broad River than the city or the town of Port Royal. Town of Port Royal actually comes south of the Broad River with their annexation of Lemon Island. So, like Lisa, her and I have long advocated that we shouldn't let that river divide us, and that we're stronger together. And so since Yamasee's been included, I think that sort of opens a precedent from a geographical standpoint that the town of Port Royal and the city of Beaufort also ought to be included. And since I've been mayor 19 months, I've come to most of your meetings over the last year. Conversely, the Northern Regional Plan the committee's been mostly ineffective over the last year and a half to 2 years since I've been paying attention. Our last 2 or 3 meetings have been canceled. The last half a dozen meetings, I think, have failed to have a quorum. In reviewing the Northern Regional Plan, we've accomplished many of the goals that were set out in that plan. And so I think our group, in the north side, we got to talk about what is the future of that Northern Regional group. I'm making an argument that we probably could shut that down and consolidate under SoLoCo. Not everybody agrees with that, and that there definitely warrants further consideration.
There you go. There's our county rep. Super.
Anyways, I just want to say again, I sincerely appreciate consideration of the inclusion of town of Port Royal and the city of Beaufort. And I think while we're mostly all getting along, now's the time to make sure that everybody's under the tent, inclusive and a part of the conversation about how we work together as a region. Thank you.
Clay, I got a question. What was, and I sadly never thought about going over there. I don't even know when they meet. What was the last meeting about? What does the Northern Plan, because you say you've met your goals, but I think that's probably right for a lot of outsiders looking in on where the next place to go to develop.
Can I address that? Because I've been on it longer, if that's okay,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
You know,
Please.
We had a list of objectives, and it was probably too long. And we would meet about them. The meetings were too long, to be honest. I've been involved with the Northern Regional Plan when I was at the air station. And we accomplished a lot of things like the joint land use study. The ACUs was all done through that. The growth boundaries, which we have a year or two, for the most part, the county and the municipalities. I disagree with Stephen that we need to do away with that group. I think we could do a hybrid, but that's not for y'all's discussion today. I do think it would be a good idea for all of us to be in one group, as he suggested and as y'all have suggested, to meet for an hour once a month. I think the Northern Regional Plan Group might end up meeting maybe once a quarter and try to only meet for an hour instead of it becoming just something to sit around and talk. And I think that's why our attendance dropped off too. We also had a member of the school board on that group, which is very beneficial.
Well, and we did too, and maybe that was part of the history lesson. The group was everyone. It was utilities, it was school board, it was our legislative delegation. It was actually more non-elected than elected, and we had the same problem. And I guess I'm just trying to think through it because we too were failing. I became chair and I didn't know what I was doing, so I just canceled a few meetings because I had no idea I was new. I was on council with 3 children. I didn't know what a regional plan was. And Hank voted me in and then stopped showing up. So Weston and I like let's just quietly stop meeting. So that we were the same way, and I think it took just maybe a new mayor here, because we never talked to Hardyville. The county council, new kind of refreshed that with Eric to really think about this. So I almost wish we were a template for the northern or for wherever in South Carolina to see how good this is. I just don't personally, I don't want it to get an hour and a half. I think we're going to find some local, if you look at our Southern Plan initiatives, and that's what Harry and, was it Mayor McCann or before Mayor McCann? The 3 of us sat and talked really about what are we going to talk about? And we looked at the Southern Plan. We just veered off the Southern Plan for a little while because Eric's thought on the stormwater, which was fabulous. So we might get back to that if we truly are a Southern LowCountry Regional Board, and I don't want that to be, stressed on Mayor Murray and Mayor DeVito and you coming, because I think we're going to hit those local issues. So how do we do that? Do we date for a little while, see if it works? Because I've got some things I want to talk about on agendas that we're totally different. Impact fees were different. We get charged differently. Zoning's going to be different. That's where I want to make sure it's a good fit.
Can I come in?
Please.
Without taking credit, the reason why we're meeting today is because Mike COVID and I. It got to a place where Bluffton and the county could never mix oil and water together. It was an oil and water mix. We couldn't understand at the same time what our purpose was, and we had representation from Bluffton on the county board that didn't understand why we couldn't get certain things done. We wasn't communicating. So therefore, we asked for just a county meeting with Bluffton officials and our county elected officials to say, let's figure this out. It's not that complicated. It was complicated, but if you talk, it wouldn't be that complicated, because now the left hand would know what the right hand is doing. Which is why this board, and I believe has been very effective. Left hand is now knowing what the right hand is doing across the region. So bringing in the other members of our county and cross the line to the other counties like EMC and Jasper, it's extremely important, because Mayor Stevens said a few minutes ago that a lot of things that we do has no boundaries. So to communicate and to make sure that when we have the same when we cross our lines, we can have a proactive approach instead of a reactive approach to the important things that we all call quality of life in the way we represent our constituents. So I would welcome the opportunity of focus, because if you get too many people at the table, we won't get anything done.
If I, yeah, you're going to do it. Okay.
Yeah, one of the things we just said about our mission statement was to identify problems and opportunities that had faced the entire southern low country. Okay? We're talking about expanding it, getting rid of the word southern because it affects the low country, whether it's north of the Broad, south of the Broad. There are 3 words that we have adopted in Beaufort County. That's our mantra: live, work, and play. It's like stormwater. People live all over this county or want to live all over this county. They want to work in this county or they don't. Or they play in this county or they don't. So we may not be able to solve this today, but I suggest that we may want to form a subcommittee that will study this, that will come back to this body and say, here's what we recommend because this fits our mission and vision statement.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that this is too big of an issue for us to wrap up today. I think Mayor Murray's thoughts on this, they have a lot of merit. There are some things that are unique to each area, northern region and the southern area of the county, that are going to need to be considered. I don't know that the folks in the southern area of the county necessarily, want to have discussions on AQs and land uses around military bases and BRAC and naval hospital redevelopment up there and things like that. So we need to try to preserve those opportunities, but there also are going to be specific things in southern Beaufort County that are going to be important as well. But at the same time, there are going to be things that, affects all the municipalities countywide and in Jasper County as well. So I would support having a committee of maybe 5 people and include the northern area municipalities in that discussion to see if that committee can vote to figure out how that would be structured. If anybody thinks that's beneficial.
I've heard the discussions, and I echo a lot of the sentiments of Mayor Murray as well. And though we have the diversity or differences, but there are so many similarities as well. Stormwater, growth, traffic, affordable housing. We all echo and share those same concerns also. But also in your consideration, also I must add that Port Royal does now expand into the southern Beaufort, because we have Lemon Island, of course, also. There may not be a lot of growth there, but then we have thousands and thousands of traffic that goes through that corridor on a daily basis. And I think we are all connected from Yemassee, Richland, Hardeeville, Beaufort. We're all connected because of the workforce and the same interests and desires. So in your consideration, do be mindful that Port Royal does expand into the southern area now.
Yes, John.
I agree. The more people you get, the better it is. But let's go back to the housing part of it. We had a difficult time because it was Hilton Head, Bluffton, Jasper, and Hardeeville. So it was difficult to get that mix in there. Once we put in north of the Broad, the way I'm just talking from what I heard today, is they have a whole different set of problems. And I'm just trying to put a warning out there, is if we diluted so much, right, I would say that we should go to Georgia, some of the Port Royal in Georgia, because when the port comes in here, not in years, they're going to affect us. Housing, whatever. Homelessness, that's becoming a big thing right now. So if we don't get together on that, there's going to be a migration from Port Royal to Hardeeville, Hardeeville back to Port Royal, and all over the place if we don't have an effort to combine everything. And it's like the port of, we need an authority for the whole area. It's not just Low Country, it's Georgia, Beaufort, and all that. But the warning is, if you dilute it, then it becomes harder. And then maybe we don't get things done. So I think the the idea of putting a committee together and saying, here are the parameters. It's a good idea, don't get me wrong, but we have to make sure that once we get those parameters, we can follow them, so it makes it easier for us to go to the future. That's
Any other thoughts?
Harry, one of the issues that is below the surface that we don't routinely see, but it is ongoing, is the erosion of home rule in the state. There are two issues that will be on the radar screen when the General Assembly meets next year. Short-term rentals and business licenses. Again, they're coming back and going to want to take away our ability to regulate short-term rentals, and they're going to want to change business license calculation from gross income to net. We're going to have to fight that battle again, and I think this group was very, very effective the first time business license issues came up, and I think by adding additional local governments in the Lowcountry makes us stronger. How we manage that, I don't know. I'm sure you all will do a real good job, but I think it makes us stronger, and I don't know if there is another organization like this statewide that speaks with one voice representing 2 counties and most of the municipalities within those counties. I see it as being a very, very strong advocacy group.
I agree. And I'll add, maybe it'll make someone think of something else. Listening to your thoughts, Mayor Murray and I talk about every week or so about, working together, and we do so well on so many other committees. Perhaps if we did a subcommittee of 5, it's everyone that's in the room, because we only have 5 or 6 that show up. So perhaps a thought would be to continue to invite, get on the agenda list, really over the next month or so. You have update, I thought you had somewhere what are our next, I thought we had what are we going to do next. But think about what our agenda items are and really look at our southern plans. So Beaufort and Port Royal, we'll see kind of where our goals are. And it may be, I don't know, pathways in Hardyville, Bluffton, and Hilton Head. It might not have anything to do with Port Royal or Beaufort. However, they can learn to take it back to your plan to say, hey, they're doing it, let's do it. Something like that, if we did it regionally, it's going to bog us down. An hour, we get a lot done. Look at our bylaws we got to look at. We need to look at, do we keep it southern in terms of who runs the meeting? I mean, we want to keep it. It started out so great. I want to keep it great, and I don't want to dilute it, but as long as everyone's aware who comes to this table every month, what's going to be discussed, and participate with ideas of how it was right, wrong, or indifferent on how each of our towns did it. I'm all in favor. I'm all in favor of kind of dating. I think you said it and Fred said it. Just come at the table, let's sit and discuss, let's see where we are, and let us get professional enough to know kind of what our next year agenda items are going to be, so everyone can kind of see how it affects each other. He said something just on Yemassee and to defend it. Yemassee is so split between Beaufort and Jasper, and with Jasper being on the Southern Regional, I believe that's why Yemassee was included, because no one else asked them.
Hampton County. Not Jasper.
Yeah.
They're not in Jasper.
Well, wherever they are.
What I
They were homeless, and we took them in, so.
But also, to add to that,
They're a part of the Northern Regional Plan, and they were on the steering committee, and their growth boundaries set out in the Northern Region. So they have seats on both committees.
Okay.
I'll be glad if it suits everybody this morning, I'll be glad to schedule a meeting with Stephen and Bill and Van to see if we can sit down and come up with a proposal to bring back next month on expanded membership, so they'll keep us from not getting bogged down and allow us to keep the focus on this. One thing I like about SoLoco is it generally goes only an hour, so you know that that's your commitment and you can adjust. Northern Regional Plan, I do not attend those meetings because I don't have 2.5 hours to, it's like a mini day conference whenever you go to Northern Regional Plan meeting, and it's usually discussing stuff related to Ladies Island, and honestly, you know, I'm just tired of Ladies Island, you know, really. So I don't go anymore. But if that's okay with everyone, Stephen, Bill, and Van and I think could meet and bring back a proposal for the expanded membership next month and let you all, as the elected officials in the committee here, look at it and see if we could get everybody comfortable with that. Because I do think it's time for the solo code role to be expanded throughout the county, and you know, everybody's going to have great ideas about that, and I think that would be great since you all pay us to get the work done anyway, so we can bring back a proposal. If that's okay.
I have a suggestion, a little different, on a move forward. There seems to be a lot of positive feedback to expand. At the same time, and I share the concern that we get unwieldy, if that's the proper word. My suggestion would be that we do not make the decision today, but that we operate as if we expand. Meaning, rather than a committee, the north of the Broad be invited and sit as part of this board each month with the same membership. Administrator, council member, mayor, whatever you want to bring to the table, and we operate and date for an indeterminate amount of time. In the meantime, your suggestion of coming up with other suggestions, we can discuss over the course of time, because we're talking about one perspective. A couple of months may go by and Port Royal's, I don't want to be part of this. So it gives both sides the ability to operate as if it's in force, but at the same time, we're not changing this or change in any way. That's one possible way to proceed.
So we'll have a seat at the table, but not a part of the membership for voting, because we won't have a voice.
Again, I'm okay if you're at the table and you're giving input. What we vote on is, you know, once every 2 years, we have a vote on who's the chair. So voting's not really an issue, but if we give you a seat on a temporary basis, an interim basis kind of thing, and operate, and if it all goes well, and, you know, we can, at some point, 1 month, 6 months, 4 months, whatever, we're all comfortable with it, then we can make the changes on the mission from Southern to just Low Country, whatever we need to do. But in the meantime, we're all thinking on how that does, and at the same time, if you all come as if you're part of it, you have a chance to give your input, you have a chance to get comfortable, because I know, Steve, you are, but the rest of your group may not have been here as often as you have. And that gives us a little bit of dating time before we tie the knot.
That's good.
Is that,
So would you be doing like, I was gonna say like a 6-month trial, like a trial appointment or whatever, and then we can revisit it after 6 months or so? Or
What I would
you want us to
suggest-
make a motion on that, or wait till next month, or just?
well,
I'm just
I think
curious
we
what
should
you
make the
want.
motion next month. That way, nobody has to make a decision right here on the spot. But I would leave the time frame indeterminate, because we may go 3 months and everybody's like, okay, this is working. And then any member can make the motion to do it, and then it becomes a vote at any time.
And I'm honestly thinking back, I think that's how Matt was new, and Matt just started showing up. And we just finally asked him to come sit at the table for a while. And I think it's a good way to, I mean, we all know each other, but let's really look and see where our issues are going. Get DeVito, Mayor DeVito, you know, you can need a council member. And I think it's a good step. It kind of goes in what Fred was saying, just to, let's see how we blend. None of us want this to fail. I think everyone in this room, I mean, I see so many people that come to these meetings, utility companies and USC, you know, across the board, they're here. So it's really, it goes back to our first sentence, just networking.
You know, I think another thing you should do is create a committee and say, this is the first expansion. Do we have anybody else that we should include? I mean, we have to address that so when people come, we at least have some idea rather than they come in and we say, well, we don't know what to do. So, you know, set a framework up and say, okay, I don't know what, maybe Hampton County. You know, I don't know. But I'm just saying that if the Hampton County decides to come down here and say something or do something, ask us to be in part of this, do we say yes? Do we say no? I mean, we have forethought on what to do.
Okay, we have one more comment by Mayor Murray and Mrs. Castle.
Ms. Castle.
I just wanted to make real quick comment, and I think this is a great discussion that we're having, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the city of Beaufort and Port Royal both part of Beaufort County? They're municipalities of Beaufort County.
Yes, ma'am.
So as municipalities, just as Hardyville and Ridgeland are municipalities of Jasper County, I would think that the natural progression would be that those municipalities be included. But my concern is when we had our consultant here for stormwater, we all had to take it back to our councils, and we also had to buy in our proportionate share of what it was going to be. And I caution that if these are just going to be sitting at the table without having been a member, they would not share in their proportionate share of whatever would come up that we would need to get approved by our councils and go forward on. So I think it's a wonderful idea, and I certainly agree that they should be included. I don't believe that it will dilute, as the words have been used. I think it will just only enhance everybody's ability to have a seat at the table, have their voice heard. And some of the issues that are being talked about in southern low country may not be applicable to you, but some of the things that are going on in the northern part may be applicable to us. So I think it's a general sharing opportunity. That's just what I want to say.
Just to give feedback on that, the regional plan, Hilton Head nor Ridgeland passed that. So it's not like whatever we agree, but Beaufort did and Port Royal did, and they weren't at the table. But Stephen's like relentless at the meeting, so he was very educated on it. There was one other thing we did. Well, the Housing Trust Fund, if one didn't pass it, it didn't mean we were stopping. So we are truly an advisory board, We go back to our councils. That's why our town managers and our county administrators here, because they run the day-to-day to know what goes on here. So just, you know, everyone could be here. It doesn't mean we all have to pass it to move forward. So that's more just
Mayor Murray.
Yeah, thank you. Just a couple of maybe responses. I agree in that the larger a group get, the unwieldy it gets to get any kind of sense of direction. And so I do think that the town of Port Royal and city of Beaufort should be included, and that probably be it for a while until, you know, maybe some other larger developments happen like the Jasper Port. So I would say that with the addition of those two municipalities, it'd be set for a while, wouldn't get any larger than that. In response to southern low country, if you take a little, you know, a 40,000 foot view, Charleston considers themselves in the low country, the tri-county area. If you think about the Southern Carolina Alliance, of which we remember, there are 7 counties, Southern Carolina. I wonder if it's time for us to claim southern low country as, you know, everything sort of south of the Combahee River. And I think to Tom's point, that we've got to start advocating as a region, because we often get left out of conversations in Columbia. I'm on the Mayor's Association Board of Directors. I'll be in Columbia tomorrow because we often get forgotten about. And they think that we're rich down here, we don't need any resources. So I think the more we can advocate together, the better. I was hoping to be welcomed with open arms today, but I'm glad the door is staying open. We will certainly continue to participate as formal or informal members, just because I sincerely believe that while none of us have the answers to all the problems that our community is facing, the only way we solve them is by talking to one another. And so I appreciate this mechanism for us to do that. The city will continue to participate, as I'm sure Port Royal will, and again, I just appreciate the consideration for including us at this table as members of the regional group.
So what I suggest that we do is no decision here today. And the board will put it on the agenda and will accept a nomination. That nomination could be, or that proposal could be that we expand. That proposal could be that it's a 3-month trial or whatever. But someone will come in. Eric, Joe, you have your idea of a subcommittee, you can talk, and then one member or more of the board come in next month and make a proposal.
Well, I thought we were going to try it for a couple of months. You went off on me.
No, well, again, that's up to me, it's up to the board, but
Okay.
make the vote
I took
next
it
month.
that you would do the trial as we were working on.
That's where I thought we were going to.
Okay, no, listen, I'm just throwing out ideas out, it's up to the board.
Your idea was good.
Okay. So, should somebody make a motion to that effect? Just that we'll,
Well, I move that we open the door for our neighboring municipalities of Port Royal and Beaufort to be invited to sit at the table on a month-to-month basis. And at any point in time, there could be a motion to move forward for full acceptance.
okay,
Does that make sense?
that makes sense, thank you.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further comments or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so, Beaufort, Port Royal, please take that vote as a welcoming gesture.
Thank you.
And not as, okay, take that as a positive.
But it is 11:01, so see where we're worried about. Just when 5 other people talk, this is going to lengthen, so some of us need to, and I'll be one of them. Can I jump on hate crimes?
Please.
And I'm only going to take a minute. I thought I'd have a few more minutes, but the hate crime bill has failed in the Senate. Senator Davis came to Hardyville at our last SoLoco meeting, and I pulled him aside because he was big on this whole penny land thing, and I said, how about the hate crimes bill? And he said, Senator Massey and 3 or 4 others in the Senate are holding this up. So I did a little research, and I will send it out to the group. There's a website called Stamp Out Hate SC, and of course they ask for donations, but they also want support. I think that's the way this group could discuss it, and no vote today, but I'd love your thoughts. There's some frequently asked questions. We're one of 2 states that don't have the hate crimes bill. That's pitiful. We all know the Emmanuel church shooting. Can't do a thing about that young man. He's going to sit there and who knows, could get parole. Without this hate crimes bill, there was nothing to keep him there forever to think about what he did. Maybe he doesn't care. I care. It's an increase in hate crimes from 16 to 18. They reported in 18, 111 crimes, which are up from 87 in 17 and 23 in 16. It's a bill that's had a lot of support. I talked to Barbara Nielsen, who used to be our Secretary of Education, and she thinks it got a lot of people started putting their own little wishes, and she is really pushing to have a streamlined bill that can't upset any faction or group. I think this group should talk about it maybe next month, and if we can come up with a letter together from, maybe we bring it up to our municipalities and county. I think a letter showing interest. We had both Herb Hersman and Newton be sponsors of the bill, but somehow reach out to the Senate. The Stamp Out SC is hopeful this year they can put enough pressure on the upstate to get this thing passed. But I will be glad to send y'all information on this. I think it's important to all of us to have this, and it's pitiful that our state of Georgia can pass it and we can't. So that's all I have to say. Any questions, y'all let me know. I'll send out all the information I have.
So, because we did make that really fast, should I put this on the agenda for for discussion, rather than open up for discussion now, let's put it on the agenda for next month. And that'll lead us into the last item. Do we have any suggestions for the agenda next month?
I'm giving out the agreement for the regional housing book.
Great.
Council gave first reading of the.
Yay.
Okay.
Passed unanimously.
Mayor, I've actually had a good coffee with Eric, and we were talking just all across the place, everything. And something came up at our town, where a developer was trying to annex land into the town because they apparently didn't like the zoning in the county. And our standards are so opposite. I can understand why people might think the town upzones, honestly. Just on multifamily, where, and I might be off on the numbers, where the county may have 10 per building, and I'm just throwing out a number. The town almost has triple that per building. So of course you see people trying to zone shop. And Eric and I kind of talked about having a LOWCO design standards and how we align our guidelines. So we are, again, working together, partnering together, especially in this world of growth, where housing developers are stressed. And of course they're moving west, and they're gonna move to St. Helena, and they're gonna move into trailer parks, as we see is happening on Hilton Head. So that's just a thought. With all the other initiatives kind of passed, it might be a good time to think about it in the next month or two. I don't know who would be the person to discuss this, but it's just a thought.
It's a good thought, because I know Hardyville and Jasper County have been at crosshairs. Let's just put it out there that, you know, there's been a couple of things that are within a donut hole of the city that the city was concerned about, and the county did it anyway. So, and that of course causes dissension, and that's not a healthy thing. So if we could come up with a general statement on how that should work, and some sort of philosophy that we could recommend to the jurisdictions, I would support that conversation in a heartbeat.
And was I pretty thorough on that? I do
Great.
Was there anything else I thought there was one other thing, and I
There
couldn't
was one that
remember.
came up at our mayor's managers meeting about looking at traffic impact studies and looking at a regional, like, making standards for traffic impact studies and trying to make sure that we're.
That would be
being-
awesome.
Being
That's a
more
great
strict
suggestion.
and-
Because we're dealing with a situation right now with Hilton Head where a neighborhood's complaining about development on a county-maintained road, and town of Hilton Head mayor has kicked those people to the county staff to do improvements to the county road because they allowed development on that county road that didn't require the developer to do any improvements. So I think that's a great suggestion to discuss. It's great.
And I think we have the same problem right now in Jasper and Beaufort with Bailey Park.
We have the same issue with lots of multifamily coming up, and we're considering the TIA sort of in isolation and not looking at it broadly. And there's a debate about our discretionary boards and what their purview is, and so we definitely appreciate a conversation and some ideas from the others.
That's great.
What ranks higher of those two? What would help the other? I don't know. Can't do both of them in one meeting. What would be the most important?
I think the annexation would be the most important, and TIA could be taken up after that. Policy statement on annexation.
I think when I think of policy statement, one of the things that I would love to see a better understanding among everybody, regardless of where a property is located. If it comes and surrounded by a municipality, and the municipality doesn't want something, should that take precedent over the county's decision? And that's rhetorical, I'm not asking anybody. But those are the kinds of issues that are constantly coming up and will come up more because of the developers want to take advantage of the market right now. So I think it would be a healthy conversation if we at least put it out there and have a conversation and enhance that communication among the whole group. And maybe we can all learn something from it.
But in the meanwhile, if someone want to be annexed into your municipalities, find out what they are not allowed to do, where they're coming from, and make sure that you say whatever you couldn't do there, you can't do here. That's always worked for Bluffton.
So who would you see doing like the presentations, like Jasper County, Hardyville, Ridgeland, and then Beaufort County, Bluffton, Hilton Head?
I think we would have to, I have no set.
That's kind of what we
But
did when we did stormwater. Remember, we did, each of us said what our own guidelines were. And then it kind of morphed into what we passed.
Well, excuse me, and I was going to say, I know we're pushing time, we want to keep it short, and plus we need an update on the regional housing, is we can make that next month's meeting is to talk about maybe those two and what we want to do moving forward, and we want to create some subcommittees like we did for regional housing or the stormwater, we can maybe do that.
Could be a subcommittee.
Yeah, that's great. Steven, you're knocking it out of the park today, man. 2 great suggestions in a row. That's awesome. That one came. The one came from.
He's been baptized.
No, something in the name. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to leave this up to the board's discretion. Do we, Eric's passed out the ordinance. We can put this on next month's agenda because there are still, we have passage of all the municipalities right now.
And except for one.
Which is?
All the municipalities have passed it. Beaufort County started their adoption last night. In addition to the ordinance and the operating agreement for Community Works, also council approved the IGA for the Regional Housing Trust Fund as well. We do not have Jasper County response yet, so I've reached out to Andy, but he and I have not made contact yet for them to take up the IGA as well.
So out of the 8 participating members, we have 7 that have passed the IGA. John, would you please take the ball and find out when Jasper County will or if pass the IGA?
So, and I apologize, if everybody approves it and we sit back in here next month, is the goal for October maybe to come back with who our board appointee or recommendations, or we want to set a date, timeline on that? Because I know the next step is to get the board created, and I think within 6 months, get the bylaws and everything in place. So I didn't know if we wanted to kind of set a date and time on getting that board put together.
I think each jurisdiction's at this point in time is free to go ahead and start making their board appointment official, and then we can discuss that at the next meeting as to who that might be for each entity.
I was just trying to, I know deadlines work good. Whenever
Harry
kind of put the deadline, let's have a vote by the end of September, it kind of worked good for everybody.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can bring it here and we need to get it to you, right, Eric? Or who do we give our?
Well, what we'll do at this point, so basically when we get the agreement with Community Works done, I will be, Beaufort County will be out of the picture for the most part. And Tammy Hoy, who retired from Community Works but has been retained as by Community Works to manage our Regional Housing Trust Fund, and a person that they've hired that has already started locally here is Brad Mole, who used to be with the town of Bluffton. He'll be their local representative for the Regional Housing Trust Fund through Community Works to manage that. So we'll need to get it to Community Works so that they can start scheduling the board meetings and doing what they need to do.
This is a good, to hold us all accountable, because we all have a million other things. I think by the next meeting, we should all come up with our names, at least together, and then know where to submit them. I think we need a deadline.
I agree.
Okay,
I think y'all should have your names by the next meeting in October.
So we'll have, going to ask everyone to have their representative named and bring it to the next LOCO meeting. And John, you'll find out for Jasper. Now, is the next step, once all the IGA's in, do the jurisdictions have to pass this ordinance?
They do not. Beaufort County had to pass the ordinance.
Our IGA kind of said that they're going to handle the money,
Oh, okay.
and we would appoint the board.
Okay.
So
So you,
they have to be able to handle the funds.
that's your responsibility.
Yeah, and our finance department will be reaching out to those jurisdictions that have already signed on to discuss with with the respective jurisdictions' finances on everyone making their allocation so that we can set up the appropriate fund so that everybody will know how that's done so that Community Works can start accessing that money. Whitney, can you help with that, please? Thank you.
I'm glad you said that. Okay, all right, so for next month then, the agenda will be as follows. We'll follow up on the discussion of the hate crimes bill, okay? Mayor Salka? We'll take discussion, comments, and questions. There will be a follow-up to the Regional Housing Trust Fund, and each jurisdiction will bring their recommendation for naming the board representative. And we'll take any further questions at that time. And then there's a conversation about forming a subcommittee to work on municipal / county conversations, I'll put it as a general word, affecting development. Okay.
You don't need a secretary.
I'm trying to keep all this stuff in so I can send the minutes out.
That's why he was willing to do it.
You're a good secretary.
That's why there was no other nominations for chair.
Tom needs to be secretary.
And I think that is all. Just one further question for next month's agenda. Does anybody want, because it's going to be about 1 week before the election, does anybody want to hear from anyone regarding the referendums or anything else, or
No.
just stay away from that?
Stay away from it.
Okay. All right. That answers that question. I thought this agenda, we'll be out early
I did
today. So you never know. You never know. Well, thank you, everybody. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So
We're in
moved.
Hardyville next month.
Next month
Next
is
month,
in Hardyville. Thank you, everyone.